Welcome to Fort Fritz, episode 39. I am your host, Fritz, joined as always by co-host Mandaddy.
Hi.
Nick Spry.
I just bit my tongue.
Angela.
Hello.
Kaz.
How y'all doing?
We are going to tell you some scary stories. If that's something you might not be in the mindset for, that's okay. You can always hop on later, but we encourage you. We will not scare you that bad. It's not like we're going to do any kind of like spooky religious exorcism stories. I'm just kidding with you. We're in the library. We're in the library, and I found some old spooky cryptic texts. Some are Coptic. I think that's probably Coptic Christianity. Some are also Judaic in nature. I can't read Hebrew. I think it's right to left. I could be wrong. And also, I've got some scrolls all laid out on the table here in our grand library on the second story of the fort.
Look out for the blowtorch.
Yeah, I think most of the blowtorches we've kind of discovered. There are some areas, though, that I would ask you to bring a chaperone along with you.
A good idea.
It's a handsome room, this library.
It is absolutely
a lot of leather.
Gorgeous.
A lot of leather.
Lacquer. Leather and lacquer.
I'm being notes of Beauty and the Beast. I'm getting very, very
Ladders
rich.
that you can,
mahogany.
swing on.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
You have a talking candelabra? That'd be so hip.
I don't think I have. I have heard some
There might be a talking clock, though.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
You could figure skate on this grand library flooring. It's that thick with lacquer, very ice-like. So we've been, kind of perusing the library. We've all been picking out old ancient text that we think speaks to us. So how about let's just go around the table, okay, and just talk about what we found. Is that cool?
Yeah, okay, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Kaz, would you like to start off over there?
Absolutely. I found a copy of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Do you guys remember these?
Nice. Yes.
The illustrations
Look
are
at these.
amazing.
Look at the pictures on this.
Is that Roald Dahl?
No. He was very fond of scary stories, but this was a series of books in the late 80s, early 90s that had these badass pen and ink illustrations, and it was just typical famous urban legends and stuff like that, right?
Well, in addition to just some of the weirdest, surrealist short story horror that you will read, adult, child, pubescent, whatever, whatever form you take. This is some weird. These are weird. Look at these. This is strange. I highly recommend this book series.
Proto creepypasta.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I was just going to reference that.
Yeah.
So I found like 3 or 4 of these over here. I'm locked in. I'm sitting down. This is me.
That's really scary. Nick Spry, what do you have over there?
So I have here a copy of it looks to be the ancient Greek play Lysistrata by Aristophanes.
Yes.
But this one has has illustrations done by Pablo Picasso.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, that's special.
Lysistrata is actually the story of the during the war between, I believe it's Athens and Sparta, and in order to stop the fighting, the men from fighting, it is a comedy. The women get together and they decide that, we're going to stop having sex with all the men until these guys stop all the fighting.
Women power.
Yes.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
So shit got shut down immediately.
Quite immediately.
Yeah, things kind of stopped. It's like the government shut down.
Within a few days.
Traditionally, when the play is performed, the men wear giant phalluses. So I'm talking like 5-6 feet fake wooden dicks here. Yeah. Just to show how bad things got, really, before the men are like, please, baby, please. And they say, no.
no.
Hey, peace.
A nay to the no, put down your spear.
And pick up your spear.
Do they disarm the men, as it were?
Yes, they do.
All right. Oh, damn.
And
with illustrations by Pablo Picasso,
so
that's
there's
priceless?
5 to 6 wangs pointing in different directions, and they all got weird angles and like cubist dicks.
The Mobius Chaos cock.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, over here I have the Doris McKay 1974 autobiography, When Should I Dye My Hair? It's a feminist manifesto.
Wow.
Oh, very nice.
Very short read. Powerful, though. Pretty much 24 pages about why you should not dye your hair.
Seriously.
Interesting.
Yep. Dorothy McKay's 1974 manifesto, When Should I Dye My Hair?
I mean, if you're going to write a manifesto, you got to pick a subject that you feel strongly about. So 24 pages on
and that
dyeing
you can
your hair.
get it
That's
out.
pretty intense.
No, you can get it out.
Yeah.
24 pages.
This is first edition too.
Was it in reference to dyeing your hair from a gray color or a white color to make yourself more youthful, or was it like,
to be fashionable?
Yeah, was it like kind of
Read the
mousy
book,
brown,
find
like
out.
colorless? Like what was going on?
Well, the about the author just says it's not going to give you any more information than what the author is willing to give you. So it doesn't give any kind of biographical information.
It's exactly what you think, New York Times.
It's a standalone. Actually, New York.
Thank you,
Did you
New
read
York
the
Times.
That's an exact quote.
I'm reading the cover.
That's the book
right
jacket.
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, give it back because now it's mine.
It's the blurb
First edition.
right there. Yeah.
What do you got?
Fortunately, but unfortunately, I found the whole Twilight series in here.
Oh my God! First editions.
OMG.
Yeah.
First edition was like, what, 10 years ago?
Pretty much.
Oh, about 10.
The writing in here is abomination. It's terrible. But it's really,
Why are you pocketing all of them then?
It's
like,
extremely
surreptitiously?
addicting,
Like,
okay?
all right,
It's like
okay, all right.
totally taps into like the teenage love lust. It's amazing.
Was it that
Fan
50
fiction?
Shades of Grey was like Twilight fan fiction,
Yep.
or the other way around?
Twilight's so much better than 50 Shades, I'll say.
Which way was it? Twilight came
50
first? 50 Shades came
Yeah,
first?
Twilight came first. Then
Twilight
50 Shades
first.
was fan fiction that they just took out the vampires
Wait,
and put
are
in
you
more.
serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a real
Is
thing.
there like
Pretty
some
much.
S&M
Meyer.
stuff in Twilight?
That's why it begets the
Right.
fan fiction.
Okay.
Just very
all right.
like heavy vampire sex in one of the books.
You mean
that's a-
heavy vampire sex like they are obese? Like morbidly
Big fat
obese?
vampires.
Wait,
If you're
just-
doing well as a vampire, you're gonna
Yeah.
probably put on a couple pounds.
You're gonna die. Might as well enjoy yourself. Have that
so
extra
much
dessert.
blood, it's so fatty. Yeah, no, it's just very intense vampire sex in one of the books. But anyway,
That's sexy as hell.
Yeah.
Well, that
Jesus.
comes like that ties back into the that's the vampire mystique, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want to say mystique, but like you lose your autonomy. They like hypnotize you, and you're like, all right, go ahead and do the neck.
They call that glamoring. in
glamoring.
True Crime.
Glamour,
Yeah, yeah.
That was a good word for it, I thought.
Skyrim has it as a vampire seduction.
Yeah.
That's a little wordy.
Okay, well,
The Twilight vampires, they glitter in the sun. It's ridiculous.
That is so freaking lame. The first time I heard that, it just angered me.
Yeah,
It's like, oh,
it's angering.
all right, man, daddy, you are getting agitated. Jesus,
Yeah.
sit
sorry.
down.
I just get that way with people
What?
who start talking
Okay.
about Twilight.
All right.
It's really not worth it, but also, it's worth it.
Well, I'm looking at a different book here.
Okay, he's throwing the
it's-
book- okay.
get that out. It's my first book of demon possession. It's like a children's book.
It's a light
but
read.
It's like a children's version of the Necronomicon.
Oh, my
it's
God.
kind of
Oh.
messed up.
Why
yeah.
did you?
Do they
Yeah.
have like pictures and like ABCs in
Yeah,
there?
it's like
how does
Seas
that
for
work?
Cthulhu, you know,
Okay.
and it's really, I don't know. Demon possession isn't something that children should be messing with.
Is
I mean,
it like
that's
one of
why-
those touch and feel? Like this is
It's
what
a-
like this demon
yeah.
feels like.
Like
this
the-
is
Tickle
kind
the
of
tentacles
Tickle
to
the
hear
demon.
him like.
Yeah,
The 1/8-inch, 1/4-inch cardboard, really thick pages, like the budgie books.
yeah.
Oh, I love those so much. And he's scratching and he's maniacally laughing now.
Oh,
You're like
that smells bad.
that's like scratch and
Oh.
snort. You're like really getting intense
Oh,
with that.
that-
Don't go back to it if it smells bad.
It's just bad.
No,
I can't stop.
I'm really curious. Will you hand that over just for a
Take,
second?
it,
Let me go-
take a hit off that. I told you.
It's like
It's got a kick.
it smells like the old ones.
I feel like I can smell it from here. You really scratched out really hard.
That smell brought luggage. It's like moved in. But demonic possession is not something to be messed around with. Kids should not be playing around with Ouija boards. Demons are out there. I mean, seriously, have you ever heard the story of Michael Taylor?
No.
No.
It's not. It's
Pretty
not.
plain.
Trigger warning. This one gets a little messy, so a bit of a trigger warning for
It
you out
sounds
there.
so plain and mundane. Like
I
Michael
know.
Taylor went to the post office, and then he like went to Publix, and then he went home.
And that was Michael Taylor's life, actually. In the
Okay.
beginning, that was Michael Taylor's life. See, he lived in a small town of Ossett in England. He was 31, had a wife, Christine, and 5 children. He and his family
Wow.
were
That's
he had a lot of
children at
kids. A lot of
31.
kids.
Oh, God,
Jeez.
He and his family were described as kind, mild-mannered, and that he was a loving husband. He had a chronic back injury and inability to find permanent work, and so sometimes he had mild bouts of depression. But other than that, nothing really that special that stood out.
How did he hurt his back?
Banging his wife?
Probably.
Nice.
Probably.
Hi-oh.
Roasted!
Other than that, there was nothing really that unusual about him. The town was a quite religious small town, but the Taylors tended not to attend church. But then, in 1974, Michael was introduced to the Christian Fellowship Church, a local church group led by 21-year-old Marie Robinson.
led by a 21-year-old.
Yes, very enigmatic, very beautiful.
Don't be ageist, but I will say that if a 21-year-old is like, I have the mystery of life figured out, come follow me, I'm like, fuck off.
Yeah, but
what are you going to take me like an EDC? Like, what's going on?
That's awesome.
Electric Daisy Carnival?
Yeah.
But I want like an 80, 90-year-old man who has studied like this religion their entire life, or woman.
We know what
Thank you. Thank you.
I gave him the look.
Or horse, or cat, or like, as long as they have like this has been their whole
command
life.
of the English language.
Yeah.
And wokeness.
Right. Super woke, super studied, knows their shit
Super
front
old.
to back.
Michael began to spend more and more time with the group. They would hold congregations where they would use the power of God to exorcise people of their sins and even speak in tongues. Michael and Marie would participate in private rituals where they'd stay up all night making the sign of the cross at each other. Which
What?
I just think
Like
that just
drawing it, or like with their hands?
Yeah, that's just
Like-
just doing it with their hands, putting it at them. I don't know, doing like maybe little mini tattoos,
Like-
and there's maybe a little henna.
Like in the Catholic Church, where you go, spectacles, testicles,
Holy-
wallet, and watch. Like
Holy Trinity.
Wait,
North,
it's
south,
up,
west,
down,
east.
left, right, or up, down, right, left?
Then AB, select, start.
Nice.
10 extra lines.
Yeah.
Contra code.
They began to spend more and more time with each other, and Michael spent less and less time with his wife and family. In the meantime, Michael's attitude began to change as well. He became irritable, argumentative, and sullen. His wife began to feel that the church group was having a negative influence on him. And plus, she was none too happy with Michael's apparent infatuation with Marie. So during one congregation, Christine decided to confront Michael about their relationship.
Yep.
Bad idea. The formerly mild-mannered Michael flew into a rage. He began to verbally lash out at Marie and became so violent that he had to be restrained by other churchgoers. Marie would later speak about the happening, saying that, I suddenly glanced at Mike, and his whole features changed. He looked almost bestial. He kept looking at me, and there was a really wild look in his eyes. I started screaming at him out of fear. I started speaking in tongues. Mike also screamed at me in tongues, which would be really funny to see. Two people going, just yelling at each other violently.
It's also weird because it's like two schizophrenics yelling gibber jabberish at one another.
Yeah.
With this week's special guest pastor, Jerry Springer.
I was on the verge of death, she said, and I knew that only the name of Jesus would save me, and I started saying it over and over again, Jesus, Jesus. And when Christine heard me calling out the name of Jesus, she started saying it too, and I believe firmly that was the only thing that kept me from being killed.
Communal prayer.
They finally were able to calm him down, and despite the violent outburst, which he claimed to have no memory of, Michael received full forgiveness from the church.
A lot of communities think that if you band together and just as a mantra, you can counteract negative forces.
But it didn't help his mental state, and it continued to deteriorate.
Jesus Christ.
And finally, he felt that he was under the influence of demonic powers, and so local priests were brought in to perform an exorcism. So on October 5th, 1974 at midnight, the ritual was performed. It would last throughout the night and well into the morning. The priest said that at least 40 demons infested Michael, including demons representing incest, bestiality, blaspheme, lewdness, heresy, masochism, and carnal knowledge.
Oh, that's getting close.
Carnal knowledge is a demon?
Yeah, these guys are there.
It's basically like all of Andrew Dice Clay's act.
Yeah, made in a person form. The priest worked until the point of exhaustion and could work no more. However, they warned that 3 demons still inhabited Michael. The demons of insanity, anger, and murder.
Those are tough ones.
These sound like some shady fucking contractors is what it is. Like, oh, dude, 40 demons, man. It's going to take all night and into tomorrow. And then, like, you still got 3 more. It's
We'd
gonna,
love to be done right now,
it's
but
going
it's
to be
still...
at least double what we quoted. I'm
The
sorry.
priest has one of those little like 4-inch pencils behind his ear,
exactly.
like an apron. He's like, so it's going to cost you an extra $6,000. We're going to have to...
Just, turns out 40 goddamn demons and anger and murder. We
We're going
can't
to
deal
run
with this.
the AC pipes underneath the
I
house.
got to call
this
my
time.
guys.
Was he just belly crawling like through Central Square to get 40 demons? Did he name them all by name?
I don't know if he went through and named them all, but there's at least
You got him
one report I
Pokemon
read.
style, anger, or like Care Bear
Choose
style,
you.
like anger, rage.
That's valid.
I don't know.
Jealousy.
Fritz and I were talking earlier, and there is actually a story in the Bible that Jesus performs an exorcism on a man, and they're saying that as many as 10 demons or a whole.
I am Legion.
Yes, that is the famous quote.
Yeah.
We are
an X-Men thing?
We are Legion. That a
Basically,
whole
that's where it
host
came from.
of demons were possessing this man, and the quote is, "We are legions." So he exorcises the demons from this man into a herd of pigs, of swine, and they end up running into a river and drowning themselves.
And that's why pork is delicious. Because of all the demons.
All the
Thanks.
demons.
Demons,
Yes, the devil.
You can really taste the demon
The
in this.
sweet,
Spiced
sweet
with
devil.
sin.
Sample that. So Christine begged them to continue, but they said they could do no more. And they told them to go home, get some rest, and prepare for the completion of the ritual the next day. Once again, bad idea. 2 hours later, Michael brutally attacked and killed Christine in their home.
Why?
Get out.
He strangled her to death with his bare hands, gouged out her eyes,
Oh.
tore out her tongue, and ripped off most of her face. Then, the family poodle would receive the same fate.
Oh, that doesn't deserve that.
Immediately, Kaz just winced.
As soon as he said family poodle, I was like, God damn it, I knew it. Man.
He's going all John Wick over here.
Kaz wilted, and Kaz is such an amazing soul. You just hurt him, man, Daddy.
You did.
No, Michael hurt him. I didn't hurt him. Michael hurt
like
you.
the tail. It was.
Speaking of tail, what about the poor poodle?
Was it
What
a
about the head
standard
and
or
the
a
face?
mini?
Man, Daddy, you just wilted Kaz. Now that's a
A
fact.
double wilt. The rare double wilt.
Well, now you're taking credit for both.
So after this little fun time, Michael walked out of the house, naked, covered in blood, and wandered through the town shouting, "It's the blood of Satan," over and over, until he was finally picked up by the local sheriff. Now, during the trial, it was discussed whether he was possessed or if it was the influence of the church group itself. At one point, the church group was described as, and I love this quote,
Was there no mental health option?
well, meaning that it was brought on by the church, that
Okay.
like the church, what caused the issue.
Well, that speaks volumes.
So, but the church group was described as neurotics feeding neuroses to a neurotic.
So like a room
Okay.
full of Woody Allens? I was talking to my analyst.
A room full of churched up Woody Allen. I was talking to Jesus yesterday, and he told me that
Woody
you're a
Allen,
sinner.
like doing therapy on Woody Allen.
It's hard to do a Woody Allen impression.
Without being racist?
Yeah, totally.
Where's the line, Kaz? I really want to know.
Let Woody decide that, and we'll fall in line after.
Now, in the end, he was found not guilty by reason of insanity and spent only four years in observation and was released into the world. And
What?
he continued to show odd behaviors and even attempted suicide 4 times. In 2004, he was arrested for sexually harassing an underage girl.
So this is someone with a history of mental health issues
Yeah.
who was kind of freed.
Yeah, just unleashed on the world. I couldn't find. I think he kind of. We're not sure if he's alive or dead. I think he kind of went into hiding. He received only 3 years for the sexual harassment. So, like you're just saying, was this the work of the devil or a deranged mind? Because that's the whole thing with all possessions. You got to wonder what's going on. Is it the mind or is it a demon?
I know.
What the hell is going on?
What?
He grabbed the
Are you
scroll. He
attached
grabbed
to
one of the
that?
scrolls.
Okay,
Let
don't touch the scroll. No one touch the
go
scroll.
Put that down.
I can't.
You okay, buddy?
Put it
Someone take it from me.
down.
Someone take it
Jesus
from me.
Christ.
No, don't touch it. Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
Give me.
Let go of the scroll. Just drop the scroll. Just
Drop it.
Just drop
Drop
it.
it.
It's
You let.
I can't.
no, it's
reading
him.
it.
You
Start
can do
reading
it.
it.
Let
You
it
can do
go.
Just
It's like I'm being
release.
electrocuted.
His
Someone-
muscles won't.
I need someone
Imagine
to
it's a
go.
steak. Imagine it's a steak.
I need
Just let it
someone
go.
to
Yeah.
kick me in the chest as hard as you can. I'm being electrocuted
I'll do
by
it.
Can we just
Yeah,
take
okay,
turns?
yeah.
Walk Angela first, Kaz, Nick, and then me at the end. Okay, go.
please,
Go.
All at the same time on 3. Ready?
Oh, I just made him worse. I made it worse.
Damn it, even like
All right,
combat boots.
Kaz, give him one. Give him a shot.
In cinema, Amelia Estevez is everyone's best friend.
Emilio Estevez.
Where did that come from?
Oh,
This is
not
my
worse
son
than I
nonsense,
expected.
guys.
Oh, God.
Someone else kick him.
Kaz, just give
right,
him
I got
a
it.
boot to the butt.
This is sweet chin music. What you guys know about this shit?
Hanks always plays an everyday man and therefore never. challenges himself out.
That's an unpopular opinion.
How dare you?
He is speaking the truth. These are deep truths.
Blaspheming, and I think that he's speaking in foreign tongues because
that was the most disturbing thing I've ever heard a human being say. We have to take a break.
Terrible. Someone else kick him. That was terrible.
Okay, we got it. Okay, we're going to take a break. While we take a break, we're just going to continue to kick this guy in the chest because this is not going well.
He's a mess.
We're taking a break. You're listening to Fort Fritz. Hello, you're listening to Fort Fritz. I am Sister Mandaddy, a sister of the Church of the Holy Natty. And we are here to report sadly that Fritz seems to be possibly under possession of demonic forces. We have him strapped to a bed, and we sadly have to perform the rites of the exorcism on him.
All right, writing this down.
Luckily, we have with us Father Kaz.
Ahoy. Continue your introductions.
We also have with us his scribe, Angela.
Hello.
And his delicious little altar boy, Nick Spry.
I'm going to freak it out already. Guys, I don't know about this one. Why am I the altar boy? Not quite
because you fit the costume the best.
Imagine a world science-based. No.
Oh, he's getting worse.
That makes too much. He says so many yes and no's. So many yes and no's. Oh.
It's clear he's been possessed. At least 40 demons.
We must pour a 40 of holy water on him.
140 of
An
natty.
entire 40.
Altar boy.
Pour the
Bring
natty.
forth the natty. The holy natty.
40s are not legal here in the state.
The best that we could do, Father, is a 32 ulcer. It's a quart.
It'll have to do, lad. It'll have to do.
Oh, Nick Spray, thank God.
Give us the bottle.
Oh, you are a sight for sore eyes.
So sprinkle the old English all over him. Go on, Father. You're the only one who's qualified.
He seems to be slipping in and out of his normal personality, though. I feel like we should maybe take a couple more minutes of research.
Waterfall. No, waterfall.
Guys, I'm pretty freaked out. I'm just going to say it right now.
You're just looking.
I'm really freaked out.
I don't mind it. It's kind of fun.
No. Guys, this reminds me a lot. You ever seen this very scary movie, The Exorcist?
Oh, I think it's
yes.
the funniest movie
Right,
I've
good
ever
movie
seen.
that is.
The music is beautiful.
Have you ever heard of the Exorcism of Roland Doe?
No, I haven't.
Sounds like a good Irish lad. He does.
So the Exorcism of Roland Doe. This is a story
That's a great rapper name, dude.
It is.
Roland Doe, man.
Roland Doe, baby. Rolling the dough.
It is a fake name to provide anonymity to the person that the exorcism was actually
Like a
performed on.
DOE,
So,
like Doe.
this-
Like Jane Doe.
Yes. Yeah, Jane Doe. It's Roland Doe. A lot of people
The
think
coolest of the Does.
the coolest.
The younger
Jane and
Doe.
John are just kind of
The
like
hip young
whatever.
Doe.
the Rebel Joe.
the most ginger of the Does.
Roland.
Yeah. So this case is also often referred to as the Exorcism of Robbie Mannheim. These are both fake names. So this refers to a child who was born in 1935 approximately, and to a staunch German Lutheran family of the Lutheran religion. And this was in Prince George County in Maryland, which is just on the outskirts of D.C. in the town of Cottage City. In the late 40s, flash forward 13, 14 years later to 1949, this child grows up in a relatively normal family. He has an aunt whom he is very fond of. Let's just call her Harriet.
Good.
She was a spiritualist. So as you know, spiritualists have the philosophy that one has a soul, and when one dies, it goes on to the other side. But those still existing in this realm, in this plane, are able to somehow communicate with them.
So it's kind of like matter, what is it? God damn it. Energy can't be destroyed.
Oh,
It can only be
Conservation of energy.
Thank you, Newton.
points.
Do I got points? Finally,
Buried
the first
next
one?
to Hawkins.
But think of it in a metaphysical sense. So famous spiritualists include the author of The Lost World. What was his name? Arthur Conan Doyle. think the Order of the Golden Dawn, Harry Houdini was a big proponent against spiritualism. He tried to debunk psychics and mediums constantly.
Spiritualism is like a blanket term, though, right? Like it's
in a lot of ways.
It is.
Right.
So his Aunt Harriet, this child's Aunt Harriet, was very close to him. He was an only child, so he didn't have many playmates. Most of his playmates were adults. He was very fond of his aunt. She was a spiritualist. She introduced him to sort of the occult arts, specifically the Ouija board.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
And this is okay. So this is 1949. Mm-hmm. Is this pre or post Milton Bradley getting involved with the Ouija board?
Why are you always on the Milton Bradley?
Because it seems so stupid that it would be like a channel to the other world.
I'm pretty sure
produced in a factory somewhere by Milton Bradley. Like it annoys me.
Like Illuminati, Milton Bradley.
I want to get to the core of why the Ouija board is so scary.
When did the Ouija board come into fruition?
Was it a thing before Milton Bradley?
Think Bradley was late 19th century, and when it really becomes
that's spooky.
I think we're working on a really killer movie script right now. When you think about this, where the demons actually influenced Milton and Bradley.
Both of them.
Yeah, they had to get both of them. Milton
was a holdout for a while. I
I
thought Milton Bradley was his name.
Milton and Bradley.
Well, John Milton wrote the book
Paradise Lost, but that was in the 18th century. Late 1800s, early 20th century is when the Ouija board first became, I would think.
And so what is it called? Like the planchette? The planchette and oh God,
psychic reading, something like that.
Board. So it did predate Milton Bradley, is what we're saying.
Regardless, so this child, Roland Doe, his aunt passes away. And shortly thereafter, at the age of 13, he starts to go a little queer. Get a little strange. He exhibits behaviors that people can't explain. When he's in a room, inanimate objects move on their own. Pictures of Jesus rattle on the walls. He starts to display cuts on his body inexplicably. And generally just shows an aversion to religious icons. It's
so
at
do
this
I,
time that the family's pastor, their Lutheran pastor, whose first name, ironically enough, was also Luther Miles Schulze.
Luther the Lutheran. That's awesome.
He had a calling.
They implore him for help.
Yeah, he most certainly did.
And he observes the boy and thinks that it might possibly be demonic possession. So he, in turn, arranges another priest, one Edward Albert Hughes, a Roman Catholic priest, to study the boy. And he, in turn, also suspects demonic possession. So he reaches out to the Archbishop of Washington, D.C. in order to be allowed to perform the rites of exorcism.
This guy's like, 10 fingers, 10 toes. Batshit crazy.
This is the problem again with the research methods of the church, in that they're like, I don't know, better call some more church people.
Exactly.
And then the higher up church guy's like, shit, I don't know, better call another church guy. Like,
bring him in.
Get a scientist in at some point. Take some blood. Like, let's get some like physiological information on young Robert.
They're mortal enemies. They're mortal enemies. The scientists and the priests. They battle as one.
If this was 1949, blood. DNA, right? Genes was already kind of
not quite yet. I believe that Walter and was it Walter and Crick?
Yeah.
With DNA wasn't until 1961 was when they won the Nobel Prize, I think, for that. But in regards to education and scientific backing, over 48 witnesses were involved with this case specifically, and 9 of those were Jesuit priests. And so the Jesuits are a specific sect of Christianity known as the Society of Jesus, but they place very, very heavy emphasis on education and on ecumenical studies. So the correlating of different sects of Christianity working together, of commonalities between the faiths.
What does ecumenical mean?
That's exactly what I mean. It's taking different denominations and trying to bring unity among them in Christianity, uniting into one original faith.
My man.
Cool.
And yes, so the Jesuits place heavy, heavy emphasis on education, on research, on scientific backing. And so the fact that there were that many priests involved as witnesses to this case gives a little bit more...
I stand corrected, Nick Spry. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, sure, because this is the to kind of dumb it down. This is the entire front office saying, "Whoa, this is something we need to all study and research, like all hands on deck kind of thing."
So again, back to Edward Albert Hughes, the Roman Catholic priest. He performs a series of exorcisms on the boy at Georgetown University Hospital, a Jesuit institution.
And that was Maryland?
And this is in Maryland in 1949. So during the exorcism, the boy, as is typical in many exorcisms, and you have to remember that it is sort of a series of rituals and not just one session, the boy is restrained because he had become violent. He was seizing, he was shaking, he was speaking in a voice that was not his own.
Always.
Wow.
Yes.
So an exorcism doesn't necessarily mean the exorcising of the demon. It is the ritual to attempt the exorcism of the demon.
I think it applies to both. You can use it for the specific instance as well as the overall overreaching.
This is our project. We need to get the demons out.
It refers to one instance of ritual as well as
the
process of exorcisms.
Okay.
During this exorcism, he was restrained on a mattress, and it began to shake heavily. Somehow, Doe managed to slip one of his hands, reached under the mattress to the bed springs, pulled loose a spring, and used it as a weapon, and slashed the Hughes so badly on his arm that he had to be rushed to a hospital that he was already in, to another part of the hospital to get stitches.
That's
the
very
exorcism had to be
intense.
Can we
halted.
admit
Yes.
that's badass? That's pretty badass. I mean,
So that might have been like some kind of artery that
Could
was
have been.
open.
It was severe enough that things had to immediately stop.
Damn.
And it's like some lethal weapon shit.
Wow.
so you're saying you're too old for this shit?
I'm too old for this shit.
Forgive me if I step on your toes, but did they say anywhere in this account how long his hand was below into the mattress to get the spring out?
Most of the stories about Roland Doe come from the letters of one Father Bishop, that his papers were found, his documents were found after his passing many years later. In fact, a lot of the accounts in which eventually William Peter Blatty wrote the book The Exorcist, which was made into a movie in 1973, 2 years later. But there was another book that came out in 1978 by Thomas B. Allen called Possessed. And this was considered to be the greatest resource upon this specific case. And a lot of his research came from these letters. So little is known specifically on this instance. And so after this exorcism failed, it was noted that the child's behavior worsened and that somehow the words Lewis appeared upon his chest. The family took this as a sign from God, and they traveled to St. Louis, where...
Who are these people?
It's a knee-jerk reaction.
That's awesome, dude. We gotta go to Lewis. We gotta
What was
go to
the
Lewis.
thought process?
Mom, it's spelled Lewis.
St. Louis, I ain't never heard nothing else.
Mimi in St. Louis. Judy
She
Garland.
runs out the door.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
Yes.
Points?
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my God.
It wasn't an arbistrary choice.
Ah, damn it.
This is
Okay.
where Father Hughes had already been talking to one Father Raymond J. Bishop, who was a professor at the St. Louis University, the ones whose papers were recovered that were largely used as research. So he in turn spoke to William S. Bowdern, and was probably the biggest active priest on this case, and performed the most exorcism. He was granted eventually permission from the diocese, from the archbishop, to perform another exorcism in St. Louis at the Alexian Brothers Hospital in South St. Louis, Missouri.
So this guy was vetted.
He
was vetted.
He was vetted.
Yeah,
Too
he's
much
like-
red tape,
Okay.
archdiocese. Like, have faith in your men. Let them perform as they desire. Like, don't you got to submit fucking tickets?
Cap in hand over heart. He goes, "You mean I'm going to the actual bedside?" No, I'm so sorry. You're going to another hospital. All right.
Another one? Well, at least if he slashes me with a fucking bed spring, I'll be
A lot better than that other
in
cuck.
treatment.
Yeah.
One would think so.
Archdiocese
And so,
cuck.
along with
Your mother's going to freak out.
I built all of that in.
during
yeah.
this series of exorcisms performed, and it totaled over 30 rituals that they performed upon Roland. With Father Bowdern was also Father Halloran, his assistant, and Father Bishop. In his diary, there are several quotes that detail the instances of these rituals, and one of them dated the 18th of March, 1949, is, quote, Next, the fathers began the litany of saints, and as indicated in the exorcism ritual, in the course of the litany, the mattress began to shake. Roland was awake. The shaking ceased when Father Bodern blessed the bed with holy water. The prayers of the exorcism were continued, and Roland was seized violently so that he began to struggle with his pillow and the bed clothing. The arms, leg, and head of Roland had to be held by 3 men. And another entry, in April, these rituals took place over the course of several months, 2 to 3 months, actually.
At what point do you call it? Like, they're like 15, 20 deep. They're like, no, we got it this time. Like, come on, dude. Like, we've done it.
There's people who have been experiencing these rituals for years.
You just have to keep going.
Especially if the theologian career is yours, then you are constantly.
I agree. That makes sense. You're not going to be like, all right, well, shit, he got me. Like, walk away. Like, you're like, no, all right, number 28. Here we go.
Exorcists are like the chiropractor of the religious world. It's like, no, I just got to keep on working on this.
Yes.
This is a project. We'll figure it out.
But that's also...
How do you call that in? Is that like short-term disability or sick day, vacation day? Like, how do you call
possessed,
that in?
so I'm not going to come in.
Well,
how does that work?
How would you do it, Angela? Because, like, obviously, like, you got the first day out of the way. You're like, I don't want to start rumors, but I might be possessed.
I feel like that's like short-term disability. You don't know.
I would imagine that would be the same thing.
I've been working here for a while. I want you guys to know that I'm gluten-free. I'm really into CrossFit, and I'm demon possessed. And but I'm working on it.
Sounds like we got it down to about 28, and we're whittling it down. We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
that works out.
Could be acute, could be chronic.
I'll let you know.
I'll let you know.
I'll let you know.
A cute demon.
So, it is during these sessions that, another quote, the word hello was printed on his chest and thigh, upon the explanation of the apostles becoming priests and receiving our Lord at the Last Supper. Scratches appeared from Roland, hips to his ankles in heavy lines, seemingly as to protest Holy Communion.
Like from the inside out?
Yes.
Oh! Was it spelled backwards or was it...
Hello?
correct?
No, spelled legibly. Obviously, they weren't like,
hello.
What is he saying? Othello. Olha, Oleha.
That's awfully polite of you, Beelzebub.
That was just
hello to you as well.
Oh.
Well, it's also reported that the devil's face appeared upon his thigh. During this period of the ritual, Roland broke Halloran's nose.
Damn.
How?
What?
And this is a 14-year-old child that is full-on breaking this man's nose. They do not say exactly how the nose was broken, but it is recorded to fact that Halloran's nose was indeed broken.
And again, we're at a hospital, and they're going to, there's records, right?
Yes.
Guy had
That
to be
is
admitted,
actually recorded.
Had a broken
on file.
nose.
This is a safe space. They have guards. They have personnel. They have some kind of security system in place.
The Catholic Church does not take this very lightly.
They do not.
You have to get higher up approval in order for this to even go down. And the fact that this occurred at all is treated very, very seriously.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this goes back millennia.
Yes, it does.
Before humankind.
Like the Knights of the Templar type of feel.
The mythology of demons being free roaming and needing and possessing, yes, goes back pre-humankind, but you got to have a human in order to be possessed. But animals
Which
could
came
be.
You don't
first,
think
the demon or
dinosaurs
the
can be
human?
possessed, bro?
No, animals
have
can
them
be
before.
in
That'd be
fact
badass.
possessed.
Yeah.
Possessed dinosaurs?
Possessed T-Rex, man. I want to see it.
There we
So
go.
eventually, the possession came to an end with the closure of the ritual, and it is noted that at one point Roland screamed out in a different voice altogether, not his own and not the voice of the demons. Satan, I am Saint Michael. I command you to leave this body now. And then he seized so violently, he passed out.
St. Michael stepped in.
He stepped in.
Wow.
Nice, Saint Michael.
Wow.
Good on
Yes.
you.
Go
Well
you.
done. Shit.
Can you tell us a little bit about St. Michael? Do you have any of that?
Saint Michael is actually, isn't he the angel of death?
I thought he was an archangel.
He is an archangel.
Michael leads God's armies against Satan's forces in the book of Revelation, where during the war in heaven, he defeats Satan.
And so that would be really that's
Okay,
badass.
that's kind of
Yes.
cool.
Michael came in, stepped up, and said, "This is what I do."
Points.
So, after this period where the boy has lost consciousness, he comes to and exclaims in his own voice, he is gone.
So he
He's
finally,
gone.
Yeah,
The boy
The
says,
boy
"I'm
in his
gone?"
Roland wakes up and says he is gone.
He is gone. Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
And yet, he retained no memory of the possession and has no idea what actually occurred.
Saint
So he
Michael.
came out of it unscathed after months and months.
Months.
Of this.
Right.
Multiple exorcisms.
Over 30 exorcisms.
That's a lot of exorcisms.
And-
Wait, what year was this again?
This was 1949. Many people suspect there is a certain someone that this case is about, and this person actually went on to have a long career in the United States government, married and had children, still has no recollection of the event, and lived most of his life in Maryland.
And this was someone who was born in 1935?
35.
Wow.
So they would be how old now in 2018?
I'm
83.
sorry, 83.
They've kept the identity.
They have kept this identity. There is no definite concrete corroboration.
Okay.
The one person who knows the true identity said that they would never give it up. And we'll leave it at that. But guys,
That's why.
Fritz.
That's why I'm so scared. You know, like, because he's writhing about, he might be the devil himself.
I think
No.
he is, sir.
No.
We need to do something to
Just let me take a step forward.
Oh!
that doesn't look
My,
good.
got to write
that was
this
a
down.
Drop him to the bed.
All right.
Martin
Well, that's
Scorsese's Casino is in many ways a superior film when contrasted and compared with Goodfellas.
It's the devil's words. He's taking the devil.
I have to write it. I have to. He said it.
Kill me! Kill me now!
I don't blame him, Lance. With
I
opinions
think
on
it's a
movies
good
like
thing to
that, it's
do.
probably the best for him.
It's better
This
for
point is
everybody.
probably His taste is completely shot.
His mind is gone.
Casino's Martin Scorsese's best film.
It's clearly
don't
good.
write it
Goodfellas
again.
is clearly the
Oh,
best
he
of
said
film.
it again.
Father, I can't take no more.
Swiss slightly in
I'm going to
Scottish.
knock him unconscious with me candle snuffer.
Do it.
No.
Lance, I think.
Wow, he's
One
really
more.
doing it.
It's a wee thing. No, there we go. No.
Lads, I think we need a break. I think
Yes. We need
we've
to
had,
speak.
No.
we've only the one
think it's
exorcism
out.
so far.
Wait,
We need.
one more.
No.
Yeah, just one more.
No.
Yeah, right in the
Give
face.
it to him.
He says so
Do
many
it, do
no's.
it.
He says so many no's.
Oh, that was a good one.
I'm doing God's work.
I think we've
so
got him
good.
arrested for now. I think we should probably take a break. Sister Mandaddy, what do you think?
I believe that's a good idea. I just try not to be
Always
as
a
Irish as all of you have become.
Placid,
Trying to
lovely,
not be-
God's
I'm
creature
trying
you are.
desperately not to be Irish right now.
You're a delicious
But it's so hard.
penguin of a man.
Don't you mean it's hard?
This habit
It's
is,
hard for something over there.
This habit
laddie.
is something I could get used to. You get it?
Yeah. Habits. Yes.
Go ahead and kick us out for
Okay,
a break,
all
why
right.
don't you?
You're listening to Fort Fritz.
Welcome back to Fort Fritz. I'm looking through what we have scribed so far. There's a lot of yes, and a lot of no's.
That's the devil speak.
A lot
You
of
got rid of the little bit less.
That's all he says.
and a lot of no's.
Oh, no.
It's supposed to be shorthand, I think. You're not supposed
Well,
to
you know,
capture
I
every
had to
single
write it all
no.
down. That's what he said, sir. All right.
It's a very
He's like a Rob Zombie script.
Yes. So.
Ah.
Oh my! There he goes again, clawing at
things
things
flying off the shelves
and
and
groaning and
Absolute
clawing and
anarchy in
groaning
here.
and clawing.
Sister, help me restrain him.
Sister Man Daddy,
Let
please
me
help
grab
us
his
here.
arm.
No.
You're so placid
Give me
and
that tiny
calm
little
last
arm.
year. Just a
That's my good
delight
arm.
to
Oh,
be
it's not
around.
a good one anymore.
I am just a wee 6'1" altar boy. I need help restraining him.
Got a skin
All
tight
right,
set
there,
of
altar
altar
boy,
boy
get
clothes
it
on.
together.
Those
Get away
from me, Father
lovely
Claus.
look
The
for you,
Welsh
lad.
band Badfinger inarguably had the most Grecian of the tragedies of 60s pop music history. Brutal.
It's really a very
That was
specific,
very specific,
pop culture knowledge.
I kind of agree with that last one.
Inarguably. Winston Churchill was a racist.
Absolutely, it was.
But nobody likes to talk about it.
No one likes to hear
No one
these
talks
things.
about it.
that. It's
don't
not in
say
the
that out
history
loud.
books,
God's
sir.
honest truth.
The Beach Boys, if they were held to the same rigorous criticisms of early 2000s nu metal bands, they would be substandard at best.
I absolutely 100% agree.
His mind is gone. His mind is gone. He's never listened to early corn.
Stop him, Father, do something.
I'm going to put my knee onto his neck now. I'm moving my knee from his chest up to his neck.
Control
Be careful.
him.
There we go.
Control him.
There
Be careful.
it is. Oh, that feels good, doesn't it?
Secure him.
Oh, I almost went Irish.
Hold him down, sir.
Altar boy, Nick
In the
Spry.
name of God. Very
Give us the syringe,
Very
lad.
close.
All I have are these little bells, these wee little bells on his stick. I don't know if you've ever been to the Catholic Church. They're pretty useless.
Oh, no.
These wee little bells.
We need a proper syringe, lad.
All right. All I have is a turkey baster.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's
All right, what do you want me to do with that?
We need to take some blood from him, lad. He's clearly he's manic, he's depressive, he's both. He's bipolar. He's
Ringo Starr's the most talented Beatle.
All
He
right.
was actually just knighted recently. He was.
Point.
You better damn give me those points now, cuz.
this is a right mess. I'm
need beer.
switching into sort of a British thing now.
Oh
It's
my
just-
God, he's drinking LaCroix and he thinks it's beer. He's totally possessed at this point.
He's cut himself on the aluminium. So I'll just squeeze some up into the turkey baster. There we go. I've got
Grab
a
a bit of
sample.
it, lad, and we put it in the
Centrifuge.
what is this?
A centrifuge.
That's exactly what it
All
is.
right, I do.
Well done, you're man.
I'm a scientific lad.
Based on musical merit. Oh, Town was the best boy band. Oh, no!
Old Town was terrible.
I believe it was
That
98 degrees.
Blaspheme.
98 degrees was also terrible.
98 degrees
Do
was
not
the
put
best.
that on the record. That was awful. That's an awful assessment.
Fuck my eyes.
But Father, why are we doing so much science? I thought this was a fucking church matter. Pardon my French.
Don't you know, lad? This the churches and science is it's one and the same these days. We've got plenty of what are these centrifuges and vitamins and
Ellen Meyer flasks and shite.
quiet, lad, quiet. Hey, shh.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the tale of Sir Richard Gallagher and Julia?
No.
Oh, not that I know
To my ears.
I imagine they didn't.
The man was a doctor, lad.
Oh,
Show
wow.
some fucking respect.
Is this science?
Aye, it is.
Oh,
Aye.
A bit of science will do you well. Dr. Richard Gallagher is what we will call the United States' premier physiological exorcist.
Really?
Dr. Richard Gallagher is a practicing doctor, and he is consulted on, at this point, I believe the count from this article says it's up to thousands of quote-unquote potential demonic possession cases.
thousands.
Thousands.
Do you know his branch?
His
of
branch.
study?
Neurology. So Dr. Richard Gallagher, to me, represents the, I guess, the modernization of the idea of the exorcism. He's a man who approaches it from his own account from a very scientific method. He quotes himself as, he says he spends more time telling people they are not possessed than actually dealing with possession cases.
Which I feel like that's probably true for priests as well, though.
Correct. And there's actually an interesting, later on here in the article, let me dig it up.
No, you're just 16.
Do they
Those are
find it
just hormones.
disappointing? Is it disappointing when you find out you're not actually possessed? It's
You're
like,
just an asshole?
oh, damn it.
That's
This is
just
just how I am.
People have
depression.
been saying that to me for years, so now, I mean, that
Angela,
hurts.
that's just
Just depression. It's fine.
This is just how I am? There's no
Yeah.
demon inside me? No, it's just you, dude.
That's just like being 14 in America. Welcome.
So it's interesting that you bring that up because there's a book or a manuscript, if you want to call it that, published, quote unquote, in
Dossier?
1614
Whoa.
by Pope Paul V, called The Rite of Exorcism.
Okay, so this was obviously sanctioned by the Catholic Church.
The Pope wrote it, yeah.
That was 16 what?
1614. So quite a bit ago.
By Pope,
Paul V.
okay.
Or Paul V.
Paul V.
Paul V, yeah.
No, Pavi.
Pope Paul V wrote The Rite of Exorcism to, quote, quell a trend of lay people and priests hastily performing exorcism on people they presumed were possessed, such as victims of bubonic plague. And this was from a more recent investigatory piece done by Reverend Mike Driscoll, the author of Demons, Deliverance, Discernment, separating fact from fiction about the spirit world, period. and quotation marks.
And other alliterations.
I was waiting for more alliteration, man. I was waiting for more alliteration after the colon.
Discernment. Deal with it.
Deliveries.
Duh.
So this part, a particular line that struck me from this book was that the exorcist is basically stated that the exorcist should be careful to distinguish between demonic possession and melancholy, which was essentially the catch-all term for mental illness at the time. So they did have a...
Yeah. That was just melancholy. That's what just
you
basically...
are melancholy. Like,
melancholy.
Oh, shit, thanks. What do I do about that?
But that's back in the roots of, like, you have the 4 humors of the body, and, like, your bile
You've
was
got
too high.
right.
Melancholy.
We need to put some leeches in
I
this
see a new
butt.
word. I see a new word for the Nick's Probably Word of the Week.
Or it could be just like, are you possessed by a demon? I don't care.
Goddamn Beelzebub, strap him to the
So we're
bed.
talking like 16th century emo, basically. Whatever.
So I appreciated that because to me it seems like from 1614 there was already the kind of idea that like, all right, maybe like if you think it's possession, it's not necessarily possession, right? Like there's vetting involved. So that Dr. Richard Gallagher sort of espouses that idea that not every time you think it's possession, it's possession. A lot of times dudes are just, they're having an off day.
Just weird.
It's like psychosomatic.
Correct. Dr. Richard Gallagher came to prominence in the exorcism community because of his work with his case on a woman he called Julia, which is not her real name, obviously, but it's an alias. So during his work with Julia, he was approached by a particular priest who was contacted by Julia she contacted him as the queen of a satanic cult. And she needed help because
the possessed person contacted the priest for help, but saying that she was the queen of hell.
Yeah. She was the queen of a satanic cult, of an earthly satanic cult. Yeah. And that her appeal to this priest was that she didn't realize what she was getting into, and she was in over her head. So she needed help.
Oopsie.
Well, that's a human disposition.
Absolutely.
Like, right? Like,
she thought she had shit under control, and she was like, whoa, never mind.
Time out. Yeah,
I need some
help. Yeah.
So she contacted a priest. Priest contacted another priest. That priest contacted several other, it's the bureaucracy of the Catholic Church. But eventually, Dr. Richard Gallagher was they reached out to him to just assess her mental state. But the dialogue around this particular patient's ailment was possession. They're like, this woman is possessed. She's like dealing with the devil and satanic stuff. So when he came into it, he dropped all of that. He did physiological blood tests. He took it from a psychiatric what's wrong with this woman?
Right.
Correct. During the
what year was this again?
Looks like it was 1999, late 90s, early 2000s was when he was dealing with this right now. Apparently during their sessions, Dr. Richard Gallagher noticed things flying off the walls, things vibrating, similar to the other story, inanimate objects kind of taking flight or motion when they shouldn't. In addition to that, Julia was able to speak from what he could tell. Again, this is an Irish Catholic neuroscientist, but he said that she suddenly would break into trances of perfect Latin and would speak at length about things that he knew nothing about.
Well, that's actually like an important specific on possession is that it's sometimes people say they speak in unintelligible tongues. That is false. Speaking in tongues is sort of an ecclesiastical response of ecstasy, of being possessed by the Holy Spirit. But speaking in ancient or dead languages or foreign languages, Aramaic, things like that, is definite sign of possession.
Demonic possession. Mm-hmm. So in addition to the Latin, to, I guess, what as Mandetti would describe it, even more creepy things happened. She had very specific knowledge of Richard's life happening outside of their sessions. For instance, one time, she had intimate knowledge of the manner and time of his mother's death. Certain
how
certain
personal,
intimate details of relationships within his life, and even up to recent events. She mentioned the vicious fight that his 2 cats had the night before at their house. And all of these things sort of led up to one night he he was attempting to make a phone call, and on the other end of the line was Julia's voice. He made a phone call to a known friend of his, or a number that he knew. On the other end of the line was one of the voices that Julia communicated to him with in sort of her demonic growl. Even though, by all accounts, she was a few miles away within the same town, and he was calling a non-local number. So this was
just nowhere near a phone as well.
Right. So you're hearing this like otherworldly sort of voice that emanates from this girl, and then kind of starts popping out on,
Barbara's in the bathtub. Can I take a message? Her name is Julia. I'm her roommate.
That's the first voice that you go to.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a demon one.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Demonic. Chester Charleston is the demon.
Check out my demon kiosk in downtown. My popcorn.
Damn, that was good.
Oh my God, he's going to kill you.
That's so awesome.
That's good.
He's going to kill you.
So the thing that intrigued me most about, again, Richard Gallagher, was that he approached it from a point of skepticism initially. He wasn't like, it's the devil and we need to get him out. And he was like, okay, no, something's wrong with this woman. Let's get her some, lithium, and let's get her like on some IVs and fluids and get her some sleep. And that shit wasn't working. So he eventually, they reached out to, again, fucking multiple levels of different archbishop, priest people. And they quote unquote successfully exorcised this demon. But in the aftermath of that, Dr. Richard Gallagher has become sort of a focal point for American possession cases to kind of help vet them and say, okay, well, hey, is this real? You've seen the real thing. Is this a real possession case? So he kind of approaches it from that. He's very much alive, very much still sort of practicing his trade.
Colin.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Dr.
Please
Richard.
call in.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Come on, Richard.
Don't be offended by the Irish Catholic priest thing that I just did, even though you are an Irish Catholic doctor. It was
Totally different. They sound.
I was doing a character. So even after the quote unquote successful exorcism of this woman, Richard Gallagher says he would still experience weird things happening. He'd go home and the lights would flicker off and wouldn't be allowed to turn back on. Or he would
your
just
electric bill, Richard.
I mean, I guess that
is that what they do now? Instead of just turning off your power, they make you think you're possessed.
That's what it is. That's Duke energy.
They are.
Damn, Angela's getting
They're that
vicious.
evil. They're that evil.
They are.
So yeah, there are several I guess detractors from Richard Gallagher. The people that think that he's fallen for the parlor tricks of scammers and hucksters and people who would try to take advantage of him, and that none of this is actually real. But again, we go back to the man spent quite a bit of time trying to help these people from what I would consider to be a clinical perspective, right? Like he was trying to assess what was wrong with this woman, and came to the conclusion that it was demonic possession. And once he came to that conclusion, seemingly cured her of her ailment. So is it real? Is it not? Should we consult the centrifuge?
Father, what's the best way to exorcise this demon?
So they got a bit of the old Beach Boys will do. They're supposed to put
St.
phonograph.
Brian Wilson, huh?
No music in that. No.
The very Reverend Brian Wilson. He's a saint among men. And he did that thing where he cracked a bunch of celery against a table and he made
Shall we do the pet sounds?
He stayed in bed for a year.
Rivers Cuomo was the best Beach Boys member. Oh, kill me.
Oh,
I think he's confusing Weezer and Beach Boys again. That's a terrible ailment. It is.
He's fighting it! Father, plug it in!
We need the power of Christ, boy, compels you to
God
stop
only
saying
knows.
so stupid shit
God
about
only
music.
knows.
Hit the sloop, John B.
Oh, yeah. Now that's what I can get into. My God.
Sounds like he's back, lads. Look at his eyes. The colour's returned to his face. He's
You can really
back to his.
see that
I liked him
spectre,
better before.
that spectre wall of sound is doing its
The
job.
shine in his eyes. Look
What
at
a
that.
good reference, lad.
Critics often said when Seether first debuted in 2003 that they would never last, and here they are with multiple number one hits, and I just often wonder if the Beach Boys took after new metal, I would,
Are you considering Seether new metal?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Obviously, he's back because he knows nothing about metal. Obviously, it's Fritz because he's completely off base considering Seether new metal. There's no way he's demonically possessed anymore. There's just no way.
I specifically said new metal, and you said metal.
I said new metal.
No, I said new metal.
I said new metal
and
as well.
You said metal.
No, I said new metal. I said new metal. I said there's no way. Seether is not new metal. I said Seether's no metal is not new metal. It's
Guys,
new NEW, but it's not NU.
Guys, I think the
Seether's
spell is
not new
broken
metal.
or whatever it was. The possession's over because we're all talking back to normal.
Yeah, it seems
Thank God.
totally normal now.
Have you heard the Seether song "Rise Above It"? I bet you haven't.
Was it about the song about him like rising above it?
Yes.
Yeah, I got it.
Yes.
I got it.
Oh, okay.
I got it.
Still
Rising up and
sucks.
above.
Y'all don't pay attention.
That's pretty metal.
Contextual information helped there.
Listen, guys, that's not new metal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, that's Fort Fritz. Everything seems to be back to normal right now. Fritz doesn't know a damn thing about metal.
I know more metal than you do, man, Daddy.
You'd be crazy to say that. All right, he might be possessing it. Everybody, tie down Fritz again. Get out the bats and the anvils.
How did the accent to sustain another scene
God, we're
of
back.
fucking priest shit?
Back right where we were before. I'm sorry, everyone.
I'm
You're
running out of
listening to
words. I
Fort
can't. I
Fritz.
don't even know any more
I'm
words.
trying not to be Irish, but it's really
My
difficult.
voice is starting to get scratchy.
Thank you for listening. Please
going
check
to
us out
sound
on
for that, lad.
Stitcher.
Come here.
Check us on the iTunes. Check us out on Libsyn.
Just please keep on listening to the Fort Fritz, don't you know? We're Fort Fritz. You're our friends. Thanks for being there.
Roman Reigns is the greatest WWE wrestler ever. Oh, God.
Oh, he's fucking possessed.
Get out of here. I just beat the shit out of him at this
You
point.
fucking shit.